There's two officers, a gray suit, a contractor with Allied that is employed to guard this building. And those three people and the two officers standing behind me in the blue shirts are the officers that intervened and took Mr. Arabaka into custody. Well, he had him on the ground. An FBI agent jumped in and they put handcuffs on him and took him in the building. He is currently in custody and he has been interviewed. Arabaka is a former United States soldier. He was enlisted for approximately 4 years, serving from 2001 to 2005. He was a repairman or mechanic on Patriot missile systems. He is 43 years old. There were injuries in this. 3 people were injured, minor injuries, 1 civilian and 2 government employees. Right now, our evidence response team is out working with NYPD and our New York Joint Terrorism Task Force to collect evidence, to conduct interviews. We have located a vehicle of Mr. Arabaka's. We have seized that vehicle. We are procuring or obtaining a search warrant. Mr. Arabaka came armed with bad intentions. I will say that 26 Federal Plaza has long been a target of extremists, of terrorists, and today the extremism was brought here. The building was attacked. Mr. Arabaka was looking to injure people and harm people. He had 2 axes, a hammer, a machete, and 3 knives, fixed blade knives. He had, as I said earlier, 6 incendiary devices or fireworks, and he had some other destructive items. Going forward today, like I said, we'll do more interviews, we'll collect more evidence, and we will, and I'll leave to Mr. McDonald to talk about charges. We take this very seriously. On his cart, he had a cart. He had anti-ICE literature on it. When he was being arrested, he yelled derogatory terms to ICE, used bad words, obviously. He is an anti-American, anti-government extremist. We know that from what he said. We know that from what he has said post-arrest. And we know that from what his actions that he tried to take today. So I will turn it over to Police Commissioner Tisch.
Thank you, Jim. Good afternoon. I am here to provide some additional details about this morning's incident outside of 26 Federal Plaza. This remains an active investigation, and the information that we have is still being gathered and is subject to change. At approximately 8:30 this morning, a call came in to New York City's 911 call center that there was an active shooter outside of 26 Federal Plaza in Lower Manhattan. 2 additional calls in the subsequent minutes reported an explosion and a male setting off fireworks at the location. Units from NYPD's 5th Precinct responded within 2 minutes of the first 911 call, and by the time they were on scene, the suspect had already been taken into custody by federal officers. The suspect has been identified, as you just heard, as Andrew Arabaka, 43 years old, of Poughkeepsie. He is believed to be a U.S. Army veteran. His last known address was up in Harlem. His vehicle, a black Toyota RAV4, was located parked in the vicinity of West 124th Street and Broadway, and that vehicle is subject to search pending a search warrant. The entire incident unfolded in view of an NYPD camera positioned on the southwest corner of Worth Street and Broadway. Video and witness statements describe the suspect's actions as follows. At approximately 8:30 a.m., Mr. Arabaka arrived at Worth Street and Lafayette Street in front of 26 Federal Plaza. Once he arrives, he ignites a bundle of what appears to be fireworks, which begin to smoke. He then goes back into his cart and takes out an airsoft rifle and proceeds to brandish it, and he appears to fire several pellets from the airsoft rifle. Next, he pulls out an orange bucket from his cart and runs towards the bushes along the building line. He dumps the contents of the bucket, an incendiary liquid, between 2 sets of bushes along the perimeter of this property and ignites a fire. Federal agents and officers then run up to the subject, subdue him, and take him into federal custody. On the scene was recovered, among other things, 2 airsoft rifles and the container with the flammable liquid. Also affixed to the suspect's cart was a sign reading "Ice off our streets." During the incident, the suspect was wearing a military-style helmet. This incident occurred along federal property, and the NYPD is supporting the federal government in their investigations. Charges are yet to be filed. Our work with the Joint Terrorism Task Force and the Southern District of New York is critical to keeping our city safe, and I commend the federal agents and contractors and officers who responded to the threat this morning. Now I'm going to turn it over to Deputy United States Attorney Jamie McDonald.
Thank you. I'm Jamie McDonald, the Deputy United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. As you can see, we're here in response to an incident this morning that took place just behind us here at the Jacob K. Javits Center, which houses dozens of federal agencies and thousands of federal employees. I want to thank the work of our law enforcement partners whose rapid response led to the neutralization of the threat and the immediate turn to evidence collection and investigation. Our office, the Southern District of New York, led by the National Security Unit and the General Crimes Units, are working closely with the FBI, the NYPD, FPS, and others to investigate this matter. As you've heard, one individual has been taken into custody. Our investigation is continuing, and we will keep the press and the public updated on charges. Thank you.
All right, time for a few on-topic questions. Which be called on?
We're collecting the evidence, and we know there were anti-government and anti-American statements made, and we know that an incendiary device and gasoline were used to start a fire. Charges are determined by the U.S. Attorney's Office. Right now, the FBI, the New York City Police Department, New York State Police Department, all are members of the task force, the Joint Terrorism Task Force, are out collecting evidence today. We will present that evidence to the United States Attorney's Office, and the United States Attorney will make that charging decision. I don't know what those will be.
Aaron.
Jim, do you believe that he was targeting just the building? Was he aiming to hurt ICE agents?
His goal was to target the building. He said that and I'm not going to get into all the details of a post-arrest interview, but he was Mirandized, read his rights. He did agree to talk. In that post-arrest interview, he did say he was targeting the building and he was okay if he hurt or killed people going in and out of the building, whether they were federal employees or civilians. I would mention a lot of business was canceled, not by the Federal Protective Services. Federal Protective Services, once they mitigated the situation, the building remained open, employees could come and go, and we continue to do work. But some agencies decided to close business for the day. There was a naturalization ceremony scheduled for today that was canceled. And the one civilian victim was an immigrant that had a hearing today for their immigration status. So that's quite unfortunate and quite ironic at the same time.
Mark Morales, CNN.
What can you say about the literature that was found there? Was there like a manifesto? And what do you know about his whereabouts on the way in? Is the phone part when did he get into town? When did he get here?
So he arrived in this area, well, I should say, yesterday he went from Harlem. He took the subway down to the Penn Station area. He walked down and stayed overnight in the vicinity of the Holland Tunnel on the street. Then he came down to this area around 5 a.m. He ventured over to our spot a little after 8 o'clock. That's the timeline for his movements. We're still collecting evidence. NYPD is out doing what the NYPD does great, and they're working with the JTTF on that.
CBS.
He has a couple of encounters with law enforcement that we're not ready to talk about, nothing rising to this level. Look, I would say that protesting in the United States is protected by the First Amendment. We do not track protesters. We do not know who comes and goes as far as protests. So I don't know if he's been involved in any protests at all.
All right, thank you guys. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right, we just got a ton of information from New York authorities on the explosion outside a federal building in Lower Manhattan this morning. This was outside a New York City ICE field office. The suspect being identified as Andrew Arabaka. He is in custody. He is 43 years old, a veteran. He originally is from Poughkeepsie, but most recently lived in Harlem. First, it appears that he showed up to this area, to 26 Federal Plaza, ignited what appeared to be fireworks, and then took out an airsoft rifle, fired several shots, took out an orange bucket and dumped the contents, which contained a flammable liquid, and started a fire. And he was wearing a military-style helmet and had anti-ice materials on him, as well as shouting anti-government extremist statements after his arrest. Let's go ahead now to Anna Schechter, who covers crime for CBS News. We have one person, one civilian who was hurt. This person, Anna, had an immigration hearing this morning. That's why that person was there, as well as 2 government employees. But clearly, we're getting a lot of information here about a little bit more about who this guy is, what his motives may have been.
That's right. I mean, and it's the irony, right, that one of the people injured was actually there for a hearing. So listen, we have seen anti-government attacks for decades. So the phenomenon is not new. But what is new is this heightened temperature with anything having to do with immigration policies of the Trump administration. So this is not the first targeted attack on federal building, but it is the first one where we see a huge raging fire. You see a suspect pouring gasoline. It's all caught on camera, and then you see the officers jump on him. So we had a lot of information early, but you're right, we just got a ton more. The timeline, this is jumping out to me. So he took the subway down this morning.
From Harlem.
From Harlem, that's Upper Manhattan for our viewers who aren't from New York City. And he brought with him what appeared to be a cart filled with all of these materials. And he had multiple ways to wreak havoc. He had the weapons, which are airsoft guns. So what that means is that it shoots plastic bullets. So it is not as lethal as a regular gun, of course, but you can still hurt somebody. So he had those with him. The initial part of the attack is that he laid this explosive material and ignited it. Then he runs back to the cart. He gets the gasoline and he pours it right in front of that federal building, just in broad daylight, ignites that. That erupts into a huge raging fire, which the FDNY comes to put out.
During what, by all intents and purposes, is
rush
rush
hour.
hour.
Absolutely.
And for those who aren't super familiar, we'll get back to the timeline in a second. This isn't just one New York City ICE field office. This is a plaza of federal buildings. We've got the courthouse where Donald Trump was a defendant.
That's right.
We have another courthouse where I actually got married to my wife. And we also have the New York Supreme Court. And so this is a ton of government buildings where people would have been walking around, going to work, or maybe going to a hearing that they had.
And most importantly, too, in terms of motive, and you can bet that prosecutors will put this in the charging documents, is you have ICE officials headquartered at that building. You also have, essentially, that's the HQ for the FBI's field office in New York City. So 1,000 or more federal agents working out of that building. Wow. I've been in that building. I mean, there is a magnetometer. You are searched. It's like a full TSA screening to get in. It's not easy to get inside, but it is easy to access that sidewalk area, which is where he targeted. After the fire, he then has time to run back, get the firearm, and fire off a few shots. Now, my sources earlier this morning let me know that there were no actual shots fired from a lethal weapon, and they felt like that was important just to let everybody know that that hadn't happened. But what we're learning now is that he did fire off some shots from that weapon. And on some of the videos that have been circulating online, I heard some of those pops. You also hear a big bang, which I think was the ignition of those fireworks. So a lot of this was caught on camera, as I said, in broad daylight. That's actually probably why we're able to have so much information at this hearing, because investigators were piecing together this timeline, analyzing all the video so they could see it from all different angles.
Well, and authorities just said, in addition to all of this, in addition to him firing these 5 to 7 rounds, he had a hammer on him, he had a machete on him.
Yep.
And they also said that he served. He's 43 years old. He was a mechanic for Patriot missile systems.
That's right. Back in 2004 and 2005 timeframe, we actually got this information on our own from the Army. Our own confirmed team and Rona Tarrant got that information. And thanks to Jim Laporta for his help. He's there at the Pentagon. So we had actually, our sources had told us about this gentleman's identity a few hours ago. So we were able to look in, and he had a LinkedIn page where he put his military service. Now, some of our other sources said, well, listen, he wasn't deployed overseas. We tend to look at PTSD potentially when we see an attack like this. But the picture we're seeing here is somebody who was really anti-government, and that was the fuel behind this attack.
Do we know what he yelled out? Because they were saying that he yelled out some bad words at ICE, and he also had anti-ICE literature on his cart. Do we know what he said yet?
So we do. We had this reporting earlier today that on the cart it was, I have to look, but it was like, get ICE out, essentially. And in terms of those statements, these would have been recorded likely on the body camera videos of those officers who apprehended him, and then potentially statements that were likely recorded after he was Mirandized, so read his right to remain silent. It sounds like he agreed to talk and that he made those statements. And this harkens back to, for me, the Gracie Mansion IED attack. A few months ago, you had 2 men, one of whom shouted Allahu Akbar and threw a homemade explosive device into a crowd at Gracie Mansion. ISIS motivated, according to authorities, and that indictment. And what these young men said was, I mean, they essentially admitted, yes, we wanted to hurt as many people as possible. Now you have an individual who is motivated by anti-government, anti-ICE, but really a far left anti-government extremist ideology, who is saying, yes, I didn't mind that I would hurt people with this. And that's what we heard at that press conference. That's definitely going to go in the charging documents, because that helps build the case for intent to harm people and civilians.
Do you think that authorities are going to be asking questions about how he was able to spend the night on the streets with all of this stuff on his person?
Listen, remember about 18 months ago, you had a man walk towards a Park Avenue office building with an AK-47 and open fire, shooting and killing multiple victims. He parked his car, had the weapon, and walked right in. Now, there was a police officer assigned to that building. He was in the lobby. It's just impossible for law enforcement to mitigate every possible threat. We have civil liberties in this country. We just have a lot of freedom. And so law enforcement is constantly balancing that against security. So this was probably pretty tricky. If he had not made statements online, if the Intelligence Bureau of the NYPD, I saw Rebecca Weiner standing there at the press conference, if they had not flagged him, if they were not monitoring him closely, it would be hard to know if he was able to conceal those things. Now, if you have a weapon out in the open and he didn't conceal it, I'm sure that's part of the investigation. Right now, what my sources have told me is that he had this cart that he could actually push, and it seems to me that he concealed those explosive devices and those weapons underneath some kind of material, so it wasn't easy to see out in the open. But, you know, this is not the first time that somebody's able to, on the streets of New York City in broad daylight, bring weapons to a place and carry out an attack.
Okay, I'm Anna Schechter, much more to come. Thank you. We are going to take a quick break. You're watching CBS News 24/7.
The only way to get a 360-degree understanding of America is to get out there in America. There really is no swing at all when it comes to the priorities of everyday people. We care about how secure our job is, whether we